Have you ever wondered to yourself why now it's basically impossible as a law-abiding citizen to own a firearm in Britain? Well, what if I told you it was all because of a situation so bad that they had to evacuate a town from one man? Don't miss this ending. What's going on, everybody? I just want to say thank you for the support. I was kind of out sick for the last 3 days, so I didn't get this up on Friday, but all you guys are so kind, and I just wanted to say thank you. So just for y'all being so kind, I'm gonna put an extra episode up next week as well. But this one's kind of crazy, so make sure to find the hidden clue, as always. Put what it is in the timestamp to get entered into the giveaway. Also, check out the new merch below. You might like something. But without any further ado, smash that like button. And as of now, it's time to slip into a mind that's not our own. Let's go. In the 1980s in Britain, under the Conservative government, widespread unemployment caused by industrial closures and privatization was actually a major issue. Michael Ryan, the protagonist of this story, was facing his own personal issues, struggling to find employment in construction or antiques. He was born in Hungerford in 1960 to an older father and a working mother. And he was an only child and often was described as a mama's boy, and despite relationships, he was actually single with no children. And one of the main concerns, you could say, that kept kind of resurfacing was his apparent obsession with firearms. I mean, according to others, Michael had this deep admiration for guns and the idea of using them in battle to prove himself. I mean, this claim is supported by his fascination with survival skills and tactics, often citing the subscription to Soldier of Fortune magazine as evidence. But we don't know a lot, because unfortunately, those who knew him best and could have provided insight into his mind and his character were, well, we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, in 1978, Ryan obtained a license for shotguns in the UK, and then he later added a certificate for pistols, and then he applied for a license to own a semi-automatic rifle. And by 1987, he owned a Mrballen, a Browning shotgun, 3 pistols, and 2 semi-automatic rifles. Okay, so visualize this picnic area in Savernake Forest, which is near Hungerford. It became the scene for a horrific event on August 19th. Michael Ryan was waiting there, hidden in the bushes away from the view. And a random woman, Susan Godfrey, arrived there with her 2 children and just started enjoying a picnic. Then all of a sudden, Michael Ryan appeared dressed all in black, wielding a gun and pointing it straight at the family. And it was at that point that he ordered Susan to place her children back in the car, which she did without hesitation. Then he walked around with her, led her to this little pack of bushes that was on the side, and he shot her multiple times at close range, choosing to aim for the back first before shooting her repeatedly until his Beretta pistol ran out of ammunition. How could somebody so sporadically do something so horrible? Well, he quickly at this point fled the scene, leaving the traumatized children behind to alert the authorities. And as the police tried to respond to the incident, Michael Ryan moved on to his next target, a gas station on the way back from the forest. You see, he waited and waited for this motorcyclist to leave before filling up his car, and then attempted to shoot the woman working behind the counter with a pistol. However, he missed his mark and decided to enter the store with one of his assault rifles instead. But when he entered, in a moment of panic, he accidentally drops the ammunition clip on the ground from his gun, and it just clatters to the ground. And Ryan now is kind of in shock, and he jumps back into his car and then continues down Hungerford. So that was a crisis right there that was kind of averted. But what he does not realize at all is that the motorcyclist was watching him the entire time. As soon as he was safely out of sight, the motorcyclist pulls over and then calls the police, thinking that, he just witnessed some type of robbery. Clearly, Ryan is unhinged right now, and he is on a rampage. And now when he arrives back at his house, he begins to put his plan into action by loading more weapons into his car. But when he tries to start the vehicle, it doesn't turn on. So this made him enraged, and Michael leaps out of the car and just unloads 4 shots at the door. Neighbors report seeing him stomping around in anger in this huge fit of rage as he entered his home and then shot his own pet dog. At this point, he then grabs some canisters of gasoline that he had purchased earlier that day, and he pours it all over the interior of the house, sets it on fire, and then just goes and returns to his car. The fire was raging on behind him, devouring everything in its path, and Ryan's grip then tightened on the cold metal of his shotgun as he stalked through his neighbor's garden, ready to unleash fury. And as the first shots rang out, Roland Mason and his wife Sheila fell to the ground in a spray of blood. But Ryan wasn't satisfied at all from that. So he decided he was going to go down to the center of town, leaving chaos and destruction in his wake. With each step, he fired indiscriminately, hitting innocent bystanders like a 14-year-old Lisa Mindenhill who couldn't escape his wrath. You could hear her screams as they echoed through the streets as Ryan just grinned with this sadistic pleasure. Chaos was erupting as neighbors frantically dialed for help while Ryan continued his rampage, targeting literally anyone in sight. And then there was Kenneth Clements, a dog walker who raised his hands in surrender, only to be met with a barrage of bullets. And as the sirens now approached, Ryan just reveled in the carnage that he just caused, with a twisted smile etched on his face. I mean, Ryan fired at him without hesitation, and police were quickly called to the scene to investigate the commotion and multiple reports. And that's when PC Barrington was shot at 23 times, ultimately being struck 4 times in the chest. So his police car veered off the road and collided with something. We're not sure what. But Ryan turned his weapon on other drivers, causing more death and more serious injuries to several individuals. A man cutting his lawn was fatally wounded while his neighbor sustained bad injuries. And similar to the cop car when it came through and got shot up, now there was an ambulance that was approaching the location, and it faced the same fate as Ryan just continued firing until they actually drove away from danger. The paramedic driving the vehicle was injured before escaping to safety. At this point, with just this manic determination, Ryan stalked the streets, firing shots at anyone that dared come near him. The air was thick with this stench of burning homes and all the scattered debris from crashed cars. And in a frenzied rage, he had somehow returned to where it all began, leaving a trail of bodies in his wake. And at this very moment is when Michael's mother, Dorothy, drove into the chaos. She stumbled upon the horrifying scene and rushed to help a dying man on the street. But her son, fueled by madness and fury, crept up behind his own mother and then mercilessly shot her down right in the head. Her lifeless body at this point was just slumped against the car as Ryan turned his gun on unsuspecting neighbors again. With each pull of the trigger, he grew more determined to make his way back to the epicenter of this destruction and carnage. And I can't understate this enough, but the police were in a state of chaos as they scrambled to control the unfolding tragedy. They were so unprepared for a catastrophic event in Hungerford, and their inexperience showed in their unsure actions. Finally, a police helicopter was deployed to track Ryan's movements, but it was too late. An hour had passed by since he had set his home ablaze. The authorities quickly determined that an armed response was necessary, but their access to firearms was limited and time was of the essence. Meanwhile, during this time, Ryan was making his way to Hungerford Common, a vast, open space where innocent people gathered. He unleashed terror upon them without remorse at all, targeting dog walkers and unsuspecting teenagers with his assault rifle. One of his victims, Marcus Bernard, fell victim to a cruel twist in fate when the police inadvertently directed him right into Ryan's path in an attempt to divert the shooter. And with one callous shot to the head, Marcus became another casualty of Ryan's rampage. And as panic and chaos consumed the town, the realization dawned on the police that they needed to evacuate the whole town right now, immediately. They were desperate to stop Ryan from causing more harm, and they frantically tried to move all of the citizens to safety while he closed in on the heart of the town. Then once again, without warning, Ryan's gun went off, and a bullet shattered through Douglas Wainwright's windshield, killing him instantly. And his wife, Kathleen, screaming in terror, was struck by a stray bullet as she tried to escape the car. And as Ryan paused to reload his weapon at that moment, she unbuckled her seatbelt and then ran for her life. I mean, this couple had just been on the way to see their son, a police officer in town. Little did they know it was he who actually signed off on Ryan's final firearms license just days ago. Now, with renewed fervor, Ryan continued his rampage, taking aim once again at everyone and everything in his path. Those who fled were met with a barrage of bullets, while those who couldn't escape were left to die on the streets. On Priory Road, Ryan mercilessly shot into a house owned by Jack and Myrtle Gibbs, an elderly couple. And as Jack desperately tried to shield his disabled wife with his own body, they both actually fell victim to Ryan's rage. But still not satisfied, Ryan now moved on to neighboring homes, shooting indiscriminately into each one of the homes before finally setting off towards the local community college. And this was actually where he attended as a student years ago. Now, though, it would be forever tarnished by his violent actions. But during the summer, the building had been closed off, so the police quickly realized that they had Ryan trapped inside and wasted no time in establishing a perimeter around the area. And after receiving advice from multiple college employees, they came up with this plan to enter the building and apprehend Michael Ryan. And at this point, you could see that the helicopters were just circling above. Ryan kind of leaned out of the windows and began shooting at them as well. And the authorities first actually attempted to negotiate with Ryan after all he has done, urging him to surrender peacefully. However, their efforts were met unsuccessfully. From inside of the building, Ryan demanded updates on his mother's well-being and insisted that her death was a mistake. He also acknowledged the chaos he caused in the town and expressed this huge regret for not just staying in bed that day. And as the clock ticked closer and closer to 7 p.m., a deafening gunshot echoed throughout the grounds. Michael Ryan's Beretta had exploded against his own skull as he took his own life. The aftermath, as you could imagine, was chaos, with the media swarming like vultures to unravel his motives behind the Hungerford massacre. But as they demanded answers and called for preventative measures, one fact remained irrefutable. Innocent lives had been taken by a man that was armed with ease. The Hungerford report delved into every minute detail of the massacre, revealing just how effortlessly Ryan obtained his semi-automatic weapons and used them to take countless lives. This tragedy, along with the similar Dunblane shooting, etched itself into British history as one of the most horrific mass murders in recent years. But believe it or not, it also sparked immediate action. The Firearms Amendment Act of 1988 was swiftly enacted, placing strict restrictions on the ownerships of shotguns and outright banning the sale of semi-automatic rifles. And these events at Hungerford spurred a significant change in British gun laws, resulting in far fewer deaths, both violent and mass-related. But why did he do this? Well, Ryan was rumored to be a fan of the Rambo movie series, although it has been falsely suggested that his own actions were influenced by the films. And despite early reports claiming that Michael had watched the film on VHS, there was little evidence to prove he even owned a copy. However, this was huge news at the time. You got a guy literally saying that he did this because he wanted to be like Rambo. And this fact was repeated so often that the star of the film series, Sylvester Stallone, felt compelled to address it in the press. He clarified that his character, John Rambo, stood for everything opposite of what Michael Ryan represented. Ryan was not trying to imitate Rambo. In fact, he was nothing like him. Even now, we still don't know much about Michael's background. However, the haunting memories of that fateful day remain etched in the hearts and minds of those who lost loved ones to this senseless violence. And as long as massacres continue to plague our world, we are reminded that even in moments of darkness, there is still hope for change. Remember that. Alright guys, this was another Rampage story. Some of you guys have told me that you really like these and I like telling them, so I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, you could please leave a like, and that would be awesome because we got to get these videos out there, get the views up. I know we can do it. Midnight Mafia, I love y'all. If you are not on Discord yet, please join us on Discord. It's in my description. And that's all I got for you guys today. Happy Mother's Day. I love you all. Cheers.